Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and along with my wonderful hirsute co-hosts, we review films either current or classic on this particular podcast. And this week, we're coming at you with not one, but two current films. We're going to be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and, because why the fuck not, Cocaine Bear, getting our explicit rating right out of the gates. So much to talk about. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce my co-host. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded, so you might have forgotten their faces, maybe forgotten their names. Jim Pugliafico is with us in the virtual studio. Hey, sweetheart, how's it going?
Are you implying that I've forgotten my name already?
Or my name. I mean, I don't know.
Thanks, babe. I'm here and I'm ready to get started again. We got what should be two fun movies coming up to review, so I'm excited.
I'm glad you can be here for these discussions, babe. I think you're going to have some great insights, not to put too much pressure on you, but looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Also looking forward to hearing from William Lindis. Will, how the hell are you?
Hey, I'm excited. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a chance to record because of just a lot of things. I was on a work trip that put me out of pocket for a bit. Great trip, a lot of fun trip, but I'm also really glad to be back with the two of you. This is I don't know, it's sort of like a cornerstone of my week each week where we get together and talk about what we've seen over the weekend. And I don't know, I missed it while we were gone. So excited to dive back in, and also, I don't know, maybe excited to do it in person pretty soon if if that's something we're getting ready to do.
I was going to say, speaking of trips, word on the street is that we have a trip coming up. Will, what is that trip? I forget. What were we doing? Oh, I know. We're going to South by Southwest Film starting next week, relative to when we record. Will has graciously opened his home up to us. We're going to get to see him, his wonderful partner, and their delightful
up to us and everybody listening.
But really excited to.
Oh, that wasn't it. No, sorry. I take that all back.
I'm not sure I understand.
It's really not.
I didn't get that. I don't think
listening. It's really not open for everybody listening.
Not everybody listening. Now, I will open up my doors.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, I get it. Like I get it. If you're at home right now and you're like, hey, I'm going to go to South by Southwest, I'm going to hang out with the Movie Bears, I'm going to show you to the nearest Ramada or Doubletree or La Quinta, because this is a Movie Bears house. Sorry, I'm gatekeeping a little. I don't know if that's the thing, but come enjoy the festival with me. But don't come to the house.
Yeah.
you
So as I was saying, we're definitely looking forward to being in Austin for South by Southwest Film. If anybody is in the area checking out South by, let us know that you're going to be there. It would be fun to maybe meet up, talk movies, do the whole festival crowd thing. Definitely looking forward to that. So we'll be coming at you with some reviews of some of the films that we've seen at South by, of course, after the event. And maybe we'll put some thoughts up on a few things during. We'll see. But yeah, we'd definitely love to hang out during South by. All right. All of that said, we got all the setup out of the way. I think we're ready for our two movies. Jim, Will, how do you feel about getting into some Marvel madness?
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Jim's psyched. Hey, Jim, you got a little. All right, we're good.
Do I? No, that's just my salt and pepper.
All right. So we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, for a few minutes that are spoiler-free at the beginning. We'll tell you a little bit about the movie and what we thought, and then we'll give you a fair warning before we go into spoilers. So even though it's been out for a few weeks already, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll have an opportunity to step away. Come on back for Cocaine Bear afterward, but just be advised, we'll give you that spoiler warning. All that said, here we go. Our discussion of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. All right, Will, as our resident comic aficionado, it feels only fitting for you to intro this film for us, and of course, give us your initial spoiler-free thoughts. What did you think of this film?
Yeah, so this is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the 87th movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's probably not that number, but I mean, probably not that number, but it's getting up there. In this one, Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, is back for his third titular role in a Marvel movie. Here as the Ant-Man, joined by Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Lilly's the Wasp. The two of them go on an adventure to the quantum realm, along with Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and their and Scott's daughter, Cassie Lang. There, they interact with a bunch of strange creatures, alien-like creatures, and embark on an adventure that begins as a small heist and goes into something that might feel as though it's has much bigger stakes. We'll say that. I don't know. So for me, I enjoy Marvel movies. I think there's something really fun about the way that they present these types of serialized stories, and by and large, I have a really good time with them. And I had a good time with this one. I will say this is lower tier Marvel for me, right? And I think the biggest reason for it is this is a movie that sacrifices one of the things that I think it does that the franchise has done best. And that's really allow the kind of the funny, schleppy nature of Ant-Man himself. You know, this is a character played by Paul Rudd, who is not generally what you'd think of as a superhero, maybe not quite as like I don't know, like statuesque in terms of like his demeanor as some of the other characters in this Marvel universe. But that works just as well in these stories where he gets to play jokes and do kind of crime heists and sort of do something that feels a little counterintuitive to the main thrust of these stories. Here, it feels like he's in an Avengers movie, but without the rest of the Avengers. And I don't know that that fully works for him. I had a really good time. I liked the characters. I liked some of the curves that happen. Michelle Pfeiffer, I feel like, has gotten to do more in this movie than we've gotten to see her do in a while. But I don't know. This is, you know, I will say that there were some problems. You know, I liked this movie. I enjoyed this movie. It's a good movie. I recommend it. And because Brad usually says at this point, all right, is it a recommend or not a recommend? I recommend this. But at the same time, I'm always looking for that superhero movie that cracks my like top 10 at the end of the year. And usually there's that one that at least goes into the consideration. And this one's not going to be it. You know, it's a good enough time, but that's all it is.
All right. Will, thank you so much for setting things up and giving us your initial thoughts. Also, boy, do you have my number on the recommend thing. Thank you for that as well. D-Geek Will is here. Hey, Will. He says, I think it's the 31st Marvel movie, but 87th is maybe with all the series. LOL. Yeah, it's all one big conglomerative thing at this point, right?
If anybody would know, it's our friend Will who made this comment, who would know. He probably knows exactly how many movies this is. Yeah,
I'm sure he does.
You know, he runs his own great podcast that centers on a lot on these properties. So I'm sure he probably knows. Thanks, Will.
31 though, even that just feels
it blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's boggling.
Indeed. We also have Hammy in the chat. Hey, Hammy. He says, how are my cocaine bears doing today? I have never done cocaine, so I don't know that I am an actual cocaine bear, but I'm doing pretty good as a normal bear.
I am a caffeine bear. And I think that I don't know, as someone who has never done
caffeine bear.
It's never danced with the white lady. Is that a thing? I don't know. That sounds like a fancy way of saying it. I feel like this Monster Energy drink probably gets me pretty close. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Moving swiftly along, Jim.
I just don't think Caffeine Bear is quite as sexy as Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Anyway, all right. So we got a lot to talk about. Jim, we've not yet heard your thoughts. I think now is a great time to do so, if you don't mind. What did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Oh man, well, I'm glad you still were able to enjoy a lot of this movie. I just did not. This movie, I'm okay with some of the Marvel movies. I'm really anticipating some Marvel movies that are coming out later this year, specifically like the Guardians of the Galaxy third movie, which I think is coming out later this year. We're starting to see trailers for that, so I'm excited about that. But this one just didn't do it for me. First of all, I'm not the biggest fan of this kind of Ant-Man spur of the MCU. The first movie was kind of cool. I like the way it set him up for that. But man, this one seemed just like it seemed like a giant CGI numb fest to me. Like it had something that I'm going to talk about that I really did like, and that is Jonathan Majors as introduced as a character. I don't think it's a spoiler, right, to say his character.
Yeah.
You're fine.
He comes in as Kang, which I don't really know that much about. I did see him appear, I guess, in the Loki series at the end. Spoilers for the Loki series, I guess. But I've been a Jonathan Majors fan since he starred in a great role in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. He's fantastic. If you haven't seen that movie, check that out. It'll give you a really good contrast to like this Kang character that he plays. The guy has range. He oozes charisma, and he's going to be in another big movie later this year. The Creed movie, right? The playing. I don't know what character he plays actually, but he's going to be in that movie. And I can't wait to see whatever he does. So I loved Kang. I love the character. I love Jonathan Majors playing that character, but the rest of the movie just was kind of a big mess to me, and I did not enjoy it. I wish I did. I was bored with a lot of it, to be honest.
All right. So is this a not recommend for you? It sounds
not
like?
Recommend for me. Like, Will, I know you said it is lower tier Marvel to me anyway, and it may not be that way for everybody. But it looks like for me and you, it's lower tier Marvel. I would not recommend the film, except to, the Marvel heads out there who are going to see everything that Marvel puts out, regardless how it is. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much for that, babe. Appreciate it. For me, I think I fall kind of similarly in line with you fellas. I think Jonathan Majors was fantastic here as Kang. I also really loved Michelle Pfeiffer coming back for this movie. They were the two big standouts for me.
Yeah.
In fact, if I could have gotten a like Kang and Michelle Pfeiffer movie, I think that would have been huge. That would have been amazing. What we did get though was just kind of middling for me. I took a star off because there's no Paul Rudd shirtless scenes. So that automatically just took it out of the running. But beyond that, I think that this movie is so much style and not so much substance. And I think it's a bit of a shame. I've done some cool things with the last couple of Ant-Man films. It's really unfortunate that I don't know, this third movie just doesn't hold up as well for me. It didn't keep my interest as much. I didn't really care very much about what was going on until the whole Kang thing really kicked into high gear in sort of the last third of the film. I don't think that's a spoiler to say, but otherwise, it's kind of a meh film for me. To answer my own question, would I recommend it or not? I'd say, yeah, if you're a fan of Marvel movies in general, you'll probably be entertained by this. But if you're looking, for something to really hit you in the feels or make you stand up and take notice from a film point of view, I don't think this is it. So choose your own adventure in this case. So, all right. I know we got lots to talk about in spoilers. So how do you guys feel about just diving right into that and getting it going?
Hold on, let's shrink down.
Let's dive into the
we're going to the
quantum
spoiler
realm.
zone.
We're going to the spoiler zone.
All right. Sounds like we're on board. So spoilers for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania are, inbound in just a few moments. If you have not yet seen the film and you plan to and don't want to have your experience ruined by us, this is your chance to step away. Otherwise, you listen at your own peril. Let's do it, guys. Where do you want to start?
I want to pick up on something you said, Brad. Yes, I didn't mention it. I failed to mention it. Bad on me. But Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne in here is really good. The movie shows us a little bit of her character and the Kang character kind of stranded in the quantum realm. I would have liked to see that. Expanded on as a story. I think that was, to me, that was probably some of the best parts of the film, like the interaction between those two. I thought were great because there was some kind of past that they had set up, past interactions, and they were kind of getting back together. When she came back in, I'd almost wished that the rest of them had stayed out of the quantum realm, and we got more of the story, and then maybe later on, there was some kind of extraction or rescue, whatever you want to call it, happen. Because I thought all the other characters that were down in there really didn't amount to much. We didn't see a lot of Paul Rudd. We didn't see hardly any of Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Lilly, and Michael Douglas, and we did get some of Cassie's, Catherine Newton as Cassie. We got a lot of her, and she was fine. But I think story-wise, to me, the strength of the story was between Janet and Kang, and we just didn't get enough of that.
Yeah. And it's hard because there's so many places where I think this movie could have been a lot more fun, right? Because this is a weird concept, and there's parts of me that wanted the quantum realm to be weirder, right? Like, if you're going to do that sort of this is a strange world, this is essentially like a traveling to another planet type movie, right? And so you can do some really bonkers things. And yeah, there were some interesting races that we got to see, but they didn't amount to a whole lot in the story, and they were there just sort of as set dressing. The overall background and world design, so they used that volume style projection in this, which we see a lot in Disney productions. You see Mandalorian made a big deal about they don't have the physical sets, they have the the sort of the projected 3D mapping on the screens behind them that the real life actors act around. And a lot of times that can look really good. It doesn't look as good here. And I think it's because everything was so muted in these kind of purple and red colors, and things didn't get a chance to really have their own life. It also had too many characters. The support characters didn't get enough to do. I would have loved, again, and we try not to do this too much on this show, but I can't
rewrite movies. Here. That's a whole other podcast.
It's a whole different movie, but podcast. But it's weird as hell to me. So that Janet Van Dyne in the comics was one of the founding members of the Avengers, right? It's like her, it's Henry Pym, it's Thor, it's Iron Man, and it's technically Hulk, right? That's the group, more so than even some of the other people that come afterwards. So this could have been a really good opportunity to pay homage to that if you were to have this story be Janet and Cassie trapped in the quantum realm, and the two of them having to have sort of a mentor-mentee style relationship while kind of going over all of the stuff here. I mean, think about some of the better parts of the most recent Halloween trilogy with Jamie Lee Curtis and the granddaughter character in that. You could have played off of that, and then maybe had a heist that up on the top surface that the Paul Rudd, Scott Lang character is planning to try to get in and rescue them. You could still do the Kang stuff. I think Kang was fun. I love Jonathan Majors. Check out Magazine Dreams when that comes out this year, by the way. He is just one of the most.
What is
it's a movie that played at Sundance, and so it's starring him, and he is a bodybuilder who has a lot of anger issues and personality issues, and also this view of what he should be like. And so it's a great character piece, but also it's him doing as a bodybuilder for most of this movie, and he he's
obviously gotten into gotten into shape for this movie and whatever's coming.
And he plays this. He plays it. So I'm excited to see more of Kang. Kang is one of the biggest threats in the Marvel universe. It's cool to see them doing stuff with him. It just feels weird though that like our first time to really see him, aside from that little aside in Loki, is getting his ass kicked essentially in this movie by a kind of a low tier Avenger, right? Like, imagine if the first time that we saw Thanos, like Hawkeye, like knocked him out with a punch, and then like later on in the movie, like the series, like Thanos was doing a bunch of like crazy stuff. It would have like made the threat not feel as great. So I don't know. It just there are a couple of things that just don't feel like they're super well plotted here, but there are some things that did work, and I think Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors are the two standouts amongst those.
Agreed. We've got some comments in the live chat that I think speak a little bit to some of the things that we're thinking and feeling about this movie. The Delightful Ben says the last two Ant-Man films felt grounded, as silly as that sounds given the source material, but Quantumania was a green screen fest, and it kind of felt like the performers weren't super enjoying it. Ben, I'm not sure if the performers weren't enjoying it in general, if it was maybe like a disconnect acting, in front of that 3D projection as opposed to like, interacting with things in the real world. Maybe it just caused a bit of disconnected feeling there, but I definitely agree. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Another movie came to mind as I was watching it, and it's not for me to watch a Marvel movie in 3D and then have another movie come to mind from not too long ago called Strange World.
Yeah.
I just and to be honest with you, the comparison wasn't great. I think Strange World did it better than the Quantum Realm, and that's not good when you're kind of putting that whole realm in the title of your movie. It just didn't. The whole thing, it didn't look as good, and it didn't. The story itself of that, the impact of that world was not as good.
And it makes sense why. Like both Strange World and Ant-Man and the Quantumania are drawing very heavily on like the Jack Kirby-esque like art of the 60s. Jack Kirby was the co-creator of most of the major Marvel things alongside of Stan Lee. He just doesn't, usually known by as many people, but Kirby is a fantastic artist, and his style was really building towards this like theater of the weird. Like, so whenever you see like these like maroon skies and purple things going all over that's really Kirby-esque. And so Strange Worlds, of course, is going to draw from that because that's one of those archetypes. And Quantumania is also going to draw from it because he created the damn thing. But the fact that both of them drew from it at the same time by the same parent company, and the one that is most further divorced from the source material did it better, is there's a lot of weird things that happened there. I 100% agree. This is a hell of a little case study in just like how the hell did all of this happen.
Right,
Indeed.
right.
We've got another comment here from Ray who says, why did it bomb? I think people aren't smart enough to go there. I think everybody wanted ass kicking instead of going on an acid trip. This has made $365 million worldwide. Would you guys consider that a bomb at this point? And do you agree that this was more of an acid trip than a Faulkner novel?
Jim, go first.
Yeah, it did have some aspects of the acid trippy thing. There was a section in here that felt. I mentioned Strange World, and I know I don't always like to compare to other movies, but I got a lot of like Star Wars cantina vibes from some of the stuff in from a segment of this movie too that had me kind of rolling my eyes. Like, really, you're gonna just again we're going to that well of Star Wars cantina scene. I just didn't dig that much at all. And to be honest, and Ray may be correct for some people. Maybe they wanted more ass kicking. I thought we got plenty of ass kicking, especially as the movie went, as we got later into the movie. And I'm not sure what he means by aren't smart enough to go there. Like, there may be some intellectual things that I did not get out of this movie. That's possible. That's certainly possible. But yeah, and as far as a bomb, geez, I don't know. Comparatively to big Marvel releases, you might be able to say this is on the bomb end of on the lower end of returns for this kind of movie. It certainly might make the Marvel MCU folks kind of stand up and take notice, like, hey, what happened here?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you can look at in terms of like it's all subjective, right? When you're talking $365 million, when you're talking those types of numbers, it's all subjective because you have budget, you have marketing budgets, and you also have what's anticipated, right? And this movie has the second biggest week 2 drop off of any uh Marvel movie, right? So that's pretty indicative of like something going wrong. Word of mouth not reaching to this one. To go back to Ray's comment, I kind of wish this was more of an acid trip, right? Like, I think about movies like Thor: Love and Thunder, which was not an acid trip all the way through, but there were moments when it played with like, oh, they were on that black and white world, and so they played with like how the fight even looked in terms of like the size of the planet. So there was more curve, the way the colors were impacted by things. I mean, not straight up an acid trip, but it was a strange world that did something strange and interesting visually. I think there could have been more of that here. You could have still had this world look and feel kind of the way they did, but I wanted to see something just sort of like spark that, like, whoa, what the hell did I just watch? Especially in a year that we just had something like, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was a movie that, again, played a lot with the overall like way that we viewed the screen, like the way it flashed through frames, the way it blended things together. I don't know. This doesn't have to be the weirdest movie ever. It is a tentpole film for a big budget blockbuster style thing, but I don't know. I just wanted a little more. If it's gonna go weird, go weird, go weirder, go weirdest.
Indeed. Right. All right. Last comment here from D Geek Will. He says, the movie for me had a singular job: get Kang over as a threat, a villain, explain why he's getting a subtitle in the next Avenger movie. And yeah, Will, that is a good point. This film does need to establish him as like a Thanos level threat, right? To explain why the new Avengers movies, I don't even know. There's so many fucking Marvel movies. Why Kang is such a big deal. I think it's unfortunate though that we're doing this whole like variant thing with Kang, because from my understanding, I mean, we're in spoilers, also spoilers for Loki. A Kang variant from Loki is not the same Kang that was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This Kang is dead, no longer, or is he? I don't even fucking know at this point, but he's not the same Kang that we're going to get apparently, because this film sets it up that there's fucking millions of Kangs. And I don't know, for me, I think that hurts Kang as a threat, because it's like it's not one singular Kang that we're getting development for in Loki, in this movie, in another movie. We're just dealing with all these different variants apparently. So
It
I don't know,
cheapens the
maybe
power of the character. I agree.
yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. I think Jonathan Majors was amazing. I think some of the King stuff was really good. I liked some of his interactions with MODOK, who we haven't even talked about yet. That was fun. But I don't know, man. I don't know that as like the Thanos level threat that he really works for me.
It's hard because like I think they're shooting into the multiple Kangs thing maybe a little prematurely based off of kind of what I'm hearing from you and kind of what I'm feeling too. I mean, Kang is one of those characters in the comics who there's so many different versions of him. Like all of these different versions that we've seen, maybe not in the big pan around at the end, but like all of the major speaking role ones are actual versions of Kang from different timelines and stuff like that as they exist in the comics, right? But the problem with this here is that we haven't spent more than one movie with any one version of it yet. I think you could have done the exact same thing with with a little bit more patience if you had one that was maybe built out as a threat. And then imagine the surprise if like this Kang gets away and we're like, oh, okay. And then midway through like the next one, like just out of nowhere, like this Kang just gets obliterated and another Kang shows up as just like, hi, I got you, in the middle of the movie to like raise the stakes even more or something, whatever. I don't know. But because we've had a different one each time, it feels like we're having to reset the villain each movie. And that's where I think the problem is. We need a little bit of like overlap between films.
Yeah, that could potentially help. Well, fellas, I know we have a whole nother movie to talk about, but we definitely got some good discussion in around Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Thank you to everybody in the live chat who shared your thoughts. I want to share one final one from Ennis, who says, "Drink the goo." That
Drink the
was
goo.
that was a fun part. Thank you
Okay, I
for
can
that.
drink the goo.
Thanks for that, Dennis. We appreciate it. All righty. We are going to go ahead and move on to the next part of our show for you this week. That, of course, being our review of Cocaine Bear. Just as we did with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, we'll talk about Cocaine Bear, spoiler free for just a little bit, and then we'll kick things into the spoiler zone with plenty of warning given to you. So if you haven't seen Cocaine Bear yet, you're kind of on the fence, you want to know what we thought, feel free to stick around for that, and then we'll give you a fair warning before we rip that Band-Aid off and spoilers start happening. All right. Jim, Will, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Then here we go. Our discussion of Cocaine Bear. All right, Jim, if you wouldn't mind, give us a brief setup of this film and your initial and, of course, spoiler free thoughts. What did you think of Cocaine Bear?
Sure. So I'll start with the IMDb description. An oddball group of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converge on a Georgia forest where a 500-pound plus black bear goes on a murderous rampage after unintentionally ingesting cocaine, of all things. So, yeah, so we have uh, this movie directed by Elizabeth Banks, of all people, which was pretty awesome. I mean, we got, I think she's directed like one of the Pitch Perfect movies or something like that, amongst a couple of other things. This one stars, man, it's the cast in here. I think is a lot of fun. We have Kerry Russell, Ray Liotta. Sadly, we have Ray Liotta. He's since passed since filming this. I don't know if this is considered his last film or not. Maybe somebody could tell us that. But he shows up here. O'Shea Jackson, Brooklyn Prince, which we saw first in the Florida Project. She was the little girl in Florida Project, and she shows up in here. Christian Convery as the other kid. He's I saw him in a show called Sweet Tooth, which I kind of enjoy. And he shows up here. Margot Martindale we see here and everything. And the one person who appears in here that I did not recognize, fully unrecognizable to me, was Jesse Tyler Ferguson. And if anybody's seen Modern Family, you know Jesse Tyler Ferguson. I did not know he was playing the character of Peter. He had the worst wig on, bad mustache, and I'm like, he looks sort of familiar, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah, my initial thoughts here. I really like this. I had a really fun time with this movie. Not to compare it to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, but I had a much more enjoyable time. This movie definitely knows what it is. Is it perfect? Does it hit all its does it hit all of its jokes? Is the CGI great? No. Is all the acting fantastic? I would say no. Could it be a little sharper? Sure. But I just think there's a lot of moments in this movie that really work. Could have been even a little better, but I fully enjoyed this film. So yeah, I would recommend this. If you want a fun time at the movies, this is the one to see right now.
All right, Jim, thank you for those thoughts and really appreciate the setup. I did a little checking while you were talking, and this is indeed Ray Liotta's last film project that he completed before he passed away. Well, Hammy is saying Ray Liotta has 3 movies coming up. I don't know if maybe this was the last like chronological one that he filmed. Maybe he filmed the other ones before. I don't know. I just read 3 different articles saying this was the last project he completed before dying. So I guess we don't know for sure. Maybe more research needed.
Mm.
Anyway, let's move on to Will. Will, what did you think of Cocaine Bear?
This movie was a lot of fun. This movie knows exactly what it is, and it leans into exactly what it is. It's camp. It's high camp. It's horror camp. It allows itself to be funny. It allows itself to be maybe a little scary, but it's not really designed to be scary. It's designed around the premise. I appreciated that this movie was not all like drug trip. It was basically a wild animal attacks movie that used the cocaine as a justification for it and all of that, and gave us a bunch of different characters who were all fun and interesting, if disposable, which is what they needed to be so that they could go out in like over the top ways without us feeling overly attached. And that is okay for this type of movie. I also want to draw attention. I really loved Isaiah Whitlock in this. You know, he is the guy that, you know, we see him in a lot of movies going, shit. And I wanted him to give us a couple of shits in this, but I still loved what he gave us here. And then there's this little boy here named, played by Christian Convery. He was Gus in Sweet Tooth. And he plays this sort of doe-eyed boy who's just like, oh, I'm going to go into, you know, go into this. Oh, my, like the cocaine, you know, just, he was a lot of fun because he was a little obnoxious, but also a little cherubic and a little over his head, but also fully aware of what exactly was going on. All of those things.
Potty mouthed.
And potty mouth. All of those things worked really well. I liked this movie. It's there's definitely like, there's some, you know, this movie is designed to be sort of like a cheap thrill, but I think this is a movie that knows that it's a cheap thrill and leans into that. So yeah, I mean, I recommend it. It is a weird fucking movie, but again, I want my weird movies to be weird, and this one does that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, Will. And it sounds like this is a recommend for you then, yeah? For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. For me, I enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I was going to. You know, I saw the trailer for the film. It looked like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie like Sharknado or, you know, I don't know, Scorpion Monster 5 or something. But this actually ended up being much better than those sci-fi films, I think. We definitely got a lot of great stuff with the bear. Of course, this is based on a true story, but it's a pretty wild departure from what actually happened in real life. In real life, there was no monstrous bear fueled on cocaine rampage. The bear just ate the cocaine that fell out of the sky and died. But you know what? We got to dramatize things, right? We gotta make them more fun. So, you know, I think it's not a spoiler to say the bear goes on a murderous rampage. It's all over the trailers. But if you go into the movie knowing that that's pretty much what it's going to be, I think it allows you to have a lot of fun with it, and definitely I did. Couple things that I really appreciated about this. Even though some of the CGI was kind of bad, they had somebody in a bear suit and, you know, doing some practical stuff, doing some CGI around that. But that was pretty fun. I also think that in terms of just the cast, I mean, like you said, Jim, we've got a lot of different faces here. One of the ones that I really loved seeing show up was Christopher, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Hivju. He plays Tormund on Game of Thrones.
Right.
He's probably one of my favorite gingers ever, and it was so great to see him show up in this movie. I'll just say, this movie inspired me to make my own movie set in this universe, guys. We've got Cocaine Bear. Meth Gator is coming next year, I think.
That's real.
That is a real movie. My movie is going to come out in 2025, and it's called Molly Hawk, about a hawk who gets strung out on Molly, goes crazy. It's going to be amazing. What do you think?
A giant hawk. Has to be a giant hawk.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Anyway,
so could I make a ketamine kangaroo?
Oh, that's amazing. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, the fentanyl ferret. That's the one you have to get out this year.
I love
we have to get that out this year, though, because
Oh my God.
fentanyl's
Okay.
all
So
over the
then
news.
here's what we do. We have another movie that brings Cocaine Bear, Meth Gator, Molly Hawk, Fentanyl Ferret, and Ketamine Kangaroo all together for one big adventure.
Ooh, the Drug Vengers.
The drug
Yes.
vendors,
That
right?
works. I like it. All right. We're getting silly. But
Yeah.
all that to say, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I definitely recommend it. Uh, it may not be for everybody, but it was fun. It did some cool things. So I'm glad that I went to see this.
Yeah, I think I think when this movie leans into the ridiculousness that it is when it's at its best. I think there are some things where they had to throw in some plot to keep things moving that just didn't. They were kind of flat, and we'll talk about those a little bit in spoilers.
Indeed. Well, speaking of spoilers, do we have any other non-spoiler thoughts that we need to get out, or are we ready to make that jump?
I think we can dive right in.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, then in that case, we are going to go ahead and make spoilers fair game here in just a few moments. This is the part where I awkwardly ramble to give you an opportunity to hit pause, go see the movie, come back, listen to the spoilery part of our review, but we don't want to spoil your innocence. So if you continue to watch, if you continue to listen, you do so at your own peril. Where do you want to start, gentlemen?
Man, I guess I'll start with for me, like what really worked. And there were some kills in this movie by the bear that had my audience both gasping and howling. Like I've never seen I don't think I've had the pleasure of being in just a regular screen, just a regular like Saturday megaplex matinee screening of a film and have people cackle that hard over some kills. There were some the ambulance kills were pretty amazing. There was a kill in a tree that I thought was great. With body parts coming down with cocaine on them, and then the bear like going over, instead of eating the body part, he's just sniffing the cocaine off the leg. Just people were going crazy. But that ambulance scene toward the end, there's a couple of kills in there that just are, I think they're genius. And we've all seen a lot of kills in horror. Well, this isn't really a horror movie, but in horror movies. And so to make us gasp at stuff that kills in these movies, it's doing its job by thinking outside the box, and I love the movie for that.
Yeah, you mentioned the ambulance scene, and I think that's a great example of where this movie hits its stride, right? Because that whole sequence, the attack in the cabin beforehand, the ambulance, the two EMTs showing up, the discoveries that are sort of happening as they're walking around, some of the silly fucking lines as Margot Martindale is like, "Buh, buh, 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 buh." So good. And then the actual like frenetic race outside, and the ambulance going, and the bear running, and the stretcher, all of those different things. That was wild. If anything, I really wanted maybe the ending to be a little weirder, a little bit more frenetic. Like there's like once the movie kind of gets its kind of final group of people in that final kind of waterfall cave area, it doesn't go quite as many bonkers places as it could, and I think this movie could have had this movie could have had like a bigger thing. There is one moment at the end that sort of does that. It made my theater laugh, but also go like kind of in unison, just like, oh god, but in a good way. And that's when the bear's pretty much dead, but then like the bag of cocaine rips from above, and then he like wakes up at the last moment and goes on the last.
Of course,
tirade. Yeah, it's like of course, yeah. But yeah, that ambulance scene like was super inspired, and every scene with Margot Martindale in it was really good. I thought she was an absolute standout here.
Yeah, agreed. And we have a comment in the live chat from Steve Sosa. Hey, Steve. Aww. He says the park ranger kills one of the thieves, blowing his head off, and that was swept under the rug with the other kills by the bear.
Yeah.
But that was a high moment for the Ranger character. That was a pretty fun kill. I mean, kills in themselves aren't supposed to be fun, but I mean, I guess it kind of was. So
Yeah, it sort of had Tucker and Dale versus Evil energy,
yeah,
which kind of like when a series of like escapades and fuck ups leads to like some over the top like kills. Like that's sort of what we got in that scene. So yeah,
agreed.
it was good. It worked.
Were you guys surprised? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the gangster stuff. Ray Liotta had the kind of the main gangster role in here, and unfortunately, that was some of the stuff that fell flat for me, and not because of Ray Liotta's performance, because he's always great, but just the way that was written. It just seemed like it could have been spiced up a little bit. I never really bought into the whole relationship between him and was it his son or just
It
one
was
of
his son.
His son.
Yeah, one of his. Yeah, I never really bought
His
into
son Han Solo.
Yeah, I never really bought into that dynamic very well. I thought that could have been fleshed out a little bit better.
Yeah, the Ray Liotta character didn't have as much to do until like the very end when he shows up. But I don't know. Like, I feel like if you're gonna put like a character like an actor like that into that role, there was more room to play than I think they did.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen like, I don't know, like see Ray Liotta's character just like in the fight with the bear, just do like a line of coke, or do something kind of like just to really like make it just like over the top at the end. I don't know.
That could have worked.
We didn't get that.
It had a real smoky in the. Go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry, I'm jumping in.
That's okay. Go ahead, sweetheart.
No, I was just gonna say it had a bit of a Smokey and the Bandit feel between Ray Liotta and his son. If you remember the Jackie Gleason character in Smokey and the Bandit, the sheriff and his deputy son, who was a kind of an idiot, who really played it up. Like that was, that was a real, Jackie Gleason was over the top, just with a bumbling son at his side. That was hilarious. I think this movie tried to do a little bit of that, but it didn't really quite work.
What did you guys think of, speaking of the Ray Liotta gangster craziness, the sort of in sequence where they're, chasing the kids and the mom through the cave, and we find out, of course, earlier in the film that the bear is actually female because her vagina was on one of the characters' faces, apparently. But she also has cubs who are also cocaine fueled.
Sequel.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yes. Like, yeah. Why not? Like, if you're gonna have one cocaine bear, let's have 3 cocaine bears. So
that's a real coke den right there.
It's especially funny considering like I think what this movie did a very, very good job of was taking like the premise. There actually was a cocaine bear, but it wasn't anything like this in real life. There was apparently like a similar thing that happened where some drugs were kind of scattered in the same way, and one of the bears like got into it and like died. Like that's the story of Cocaine Bear. Like a bear found some cocaine and died. And that bear's body is like on display as a tourist thing, by the way. You can like go and see the actual cocaine bear. But I love that they took that and they're just like, okay, cocaine bear. Now let's make a movie out of that. Like, and just sort of, and they didn't feel compelled to like make the rest of it like grounded. They're just like, let's just tell the weirdest what if story about this thing possible. So yeah, why not? Yeah, there's cubs, and later on there's a gator that does meth. Sure. All of it.
I think the most fun part about that, Will, is just thinking of like you're putting yourself in the shoes of the writer, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously the Cocaine Bear story comes on the news, and they're like half in the bag, sitting at a bar, with some friends, and they're like, "Oh shit, that bear did cocaine and it died." But wait, what if it like didn't die and it was like on a rampage and just started fucking killing people? I mean, you could totally see how that could spin the whole yarn of this movie right there and then.
Yeah. And Hammy has a good comment here. You know, the kids eating mouthfuls of cocaine at the beginning got me nervous. Even spitting it out would likely kill them. Glad they made it through, though. Yeah, I was wondering if like they were going to just kill those two characters at the beginning of the movie. And they didn't. They made it kind of for the laugh of it. And I think that worked well, too, because I think that this movie was, it was a lot of things, but it wasn't cynical, right? And I think that if this movie had killed off its kids early on through just like, oh, they found the cocaine, they did it, and they died, I think it would have been an ultimately different tone. This movie ended up being about, like, on top of everything else, like, this weird group of people kind of found themselves banding together, you know, even if only temporarily, and even kind of, you know, if it's not like, you know, they're not like a newfound family or anything like that, but, you know, these main characters all sort of came together for different reasons. That would have worked out very differently if you punched out the kids early. So yeah, I'm glad surprised. They did it this way.
I'm surprised they didn't. You know, you put they didn't ingest a lot. Obviously, they just like tasted it off the knife and then spit it out. I'm surprised they didn't do something with like numb mouth. You know what I mean? After they did that. But
yeah.
But yeah, that stuff doesn't taste real good. It's not for ingesting quite that way. So I would imagine
I've heard it didn't taste good, but yeah, I don't know.
I can vouch that it doesn't taste very good.
Okay. Jim's coming clean on the podcast,
but it will make your mouth tingly and numb.
You from 40 years ago.
Right. Let's
clarify.
Yeah.
Let's clarify.
Yeah.
As being of clarification, the kids didn't have just a little bump of cocaine on the knife. They had a giant fucking like mound of cocaine on the knife.
A spoonful of sugar
put in their mouth. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, let's just put this in. Yeah,
I'm sure it'll be fine.
No little taste on the tongue. Just put it right in your mouth.
What else, guys?
This one's weird. Like, it's not quite as spoiler heavy as some of the others. This is a movie that like is what you get. What you see on the tin is what you get, right? And I think that's refreshing, right? I did like seeing there's a comic who's generally known for doing these little like short skits. Scott Cease. He does these short little skits about like IKEA and retail work. It's primarily on like TikTok, and he plays one of the two ambulance drivers. I thought he did a good job. Like, you know, like just for like guy that I know from my TikTok feed to guy that's in the Cocaine Bear movie. And he's doing a lot with it on TikTok too. He's really having fun with it. So I appreciated seeing him there, and I appreciated that it didn't feel like a stunt cast or anything like that. He got not a sizable role, but he was in a sizable scene, and he did everything he needed to do believably in that scene.
Yep. He got drooled on and killed, which is perfect, right?
Yeah.
But the bear lives at the end. Spoilers. That while we're in spoilers, I'm glad the bear lives at the end. No animals were harmed in the making of the movie.
This is true. Yeah. I did also really appreciate there's a scene at the very beginning of the movie where it's reading off some bear facts on the screen. And then it sources it on screen as Wikipedia. And I think that really set the tone of the movie. It gave the audience a good chuckle and let us know that like this was going to be a movie that like both tried to take itself seriously, but then immediately took the piss out of itself. Mm-hmm. And I think it's smart when a movie basically tells the audience, like, this is the type of laugh you can expect through the rest of the movie. You know, strap in and let's go.
I mean, we had a glory hole joke on a billboard. So, you know, I think that definitely fits with the tone.
Yeah. Yep, we did. What was it? Like the South's best glory hole or something like that? I forget.
The South's original glory hole or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't see a glory hole anywhere in the rest of the film, so I
we didn't.
Was scratching my head a little bit.
No.
So
even in the men's room scene,
there were other stalls. They would have been there.
Oh, I see.
We just missed those.
Yeah.
Hammy says that Scott's Eyes has a TikTok Cocaine Bear review that's apparently pretty fucking funny. So if you're a fan of his comedy and you want to hear some more thoughts on Cocaine Bear, make sure to check that out.
I was totally reading that wrong. I thought it said TikTok Cobain Bear review. And I'm like, wait, oh, that's crazy. Like Kurt Cobain, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
Well, now I need to know. I thought it was a typo, and I was just
I think it
being
is.
nice
I think
and
you're
going
correct.
past it. But Hammy,
Oh,
let us know, is this a Kurt Cobain reference or Cocaine Bear?
Cobain Bear. That's a whole nother movie.
I probably run
Love.
into Cobain Bear on Prowler.
Oh, good Courtney Love, the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. Any other final thoughts on Cocaine Bear before we wrap this mofo up?
No, I want to see more. I would love to see more movies like this. Will, I know you're more of a genre guy than me. You've probably seen a lot more of this kind of or movies that have attempted this before, but this is like one of the biggest titles and biggest successes of this type of movie we've seen in a while, and I'm totally there for it.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie, it's to sort of put in perspective what it is. It sort of has the virality and memification of something like Snakes on a Plane, which is cool. A movie that's sort of like, you kind of make the title and the punchline first, and then you work your way backwards from there. But it also takes itself just seriously enough to also be sort of in the area of like Lake Placid or Anaconda, which were other sort of over the top animals killing people movies. And you know what? Like, I do kind of miss stuff like that. We saw that what was it, Crawl from 2 years ago, the one with all of the gators, which wasn't a comedy. It wasn't a comedy. It was fun, but it was fun. And it made me remember just how much I miss sort of like these sort of big, like, man versus beast style movies like this. I had Beast with Idris Elba earlier this year. I want more of these types of things. I think they tend to be fun, regardless of if you go funny or if you go serious. They can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely agree.
And I've got a message for all the drug dealers out there. Stop dropping your stash in places where these poor defenseless animals are going to get into it and harm them and others. Right? It's just not right. Stop it.
Yeah. We don't want to watch Ganja Gazelle. We will, but stop intoxicating our animals.
In our movie world, okay, but not in the real world. Let's not do that.
Indeed. Hammy did weigh in, by the way, and it turns out it was indeed a misspelling. He says autocorrect is taking too many drugs. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Although I do want to see the Cobain Bear review now. That's Hammy, this is yours to write. Yeah, like this is yours to write now. Like,
come as you are. All right.
Come as a bear.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for our 2 movie discussions this week. It was a lot of fun reading all of your comments. We didn't get to read all of them on air, but definitely great to kind of keep up with the chat, see what you folks are saying, and share a few select gems. Jim, Will, it was a blast reuniting in order to talk about these 2 movies. In case people want to chat with us between now and our recording next week, which I think is Creed 3? I believe so. We'll finalize that. We'll figure it out. But let's let folks know where they can find us online. Jim, how about you?
Yeah, I'm JJP Out West. That's my initials, JJP Out West. At on Twitter, where you'll find me a lot, mostly lurking. But yeah, you can message me there. You can also check out my Letterboxd at JJP Out West, and find me on Facebook at Jim Pugliafico.
All right, thank you, babe. Will, how about you?
I'm on the different social media platforms. Find me on Instagram at whatever cove. I'm on Facebook. I'm William Lindis there. I'm on Letterboxd. Look for William Lindis or Fundamental, depending on if you're searching by name or by tag there. And I'm on TikTok at the Movie Bear. So come follow me on socials.
All right. And you can find me on Facebook. Just look for Brad Harris. I'm the one who likely has Bear, Chub, Chaser, etc. friends in common with you. You can also find me on Letterboxd, where I'm proud to say I have logged every movie I have seen so far this year. 2 months into the year is a record for me with Letterboxd. So feel free to add me there at iBradPro, or add me on Twitter at the same handle. It's even on the screen at iBradPro. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We love you all, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.